Well, something very important happened in Canberra this week. The Senate passing tough new laws to crack down on vile online abuse. The Online Safety Bill, which is now an act, will have a Senate shortly, hands sweeping new powers to the E-Safety Commissioner to order the removal of abusive content within 24 hours and increases penalties for using a carriage service, which is the internet or a phone, to menace or harass. Now, none of this would have happened without my next guest, Erin Molan, who's campaigned tirelessly to make the internet a safer place for us all. She joins me now from Sydney. Now, I know Erin Molan, great to have you on my show. My viewers love you. I know how hard you campaigned on this, all the hours behind the scenes, the knocking on doors, the writing of documents. So congratulations, you must be thrilled.
Thank you so much, Peter. It's such an honour to be on your show. And the only reason you know so well how hard I've worked behind the scenes is because you've been there with me for so much of it. I want to take this opportunity very quickly before we get into the nuts and bolts of it to thank you so incredibly much. This hasn't really been made public, but you were instrumental in so much of this. I turn to people like you, Judge Paul Conlon, and my sister Felicity, who's a lawyer as well, and the amount of work that you've put into this behind the scenes to help me from a policy perspective and a legislative perspective has just been phenomenal. So thank you so much for everything that you've done. It's been incredible.
Oh, I'm just a worker bee in the back room, as I always was, and you're the showbiz end. I think it's a terrific outcome because it's not about limiting free speech. I think we need to make that clear. We both care very strongly and deeply about free speech. But this is the stuff that's beyond the pale, right? This is the sort of stuff that young people take to heart, and some of them, lose their lives over it. That's the distinction, isn't it?
Absolutely. And it's a really important point to make. And I make sure that whenever I talk about this, I make that very clear, because any kind of opposition that you get to this is generally along the lines of free speech. This does not in any way, shape or form infringe on free speech. And I would never stand for anything that did that. This is not about removing people from the internet who don't like me or who think I'm an idiot or who want to engage in robust debate or who want to be very critical, even people who want to be a little bit mean. Not my kind of way of operating, but if that's what you want to do, go for gold. This is about people who cross a line. The threshold for this, Peter, is akin to the criminal code. So this is not about people who are easily offended just wanting to remove any skerrick of criticism online. This is about people who send threats, who send threats to rape my 2-year-old daughter, who send things to people that cause them to take their lives, who harass, who intimidate, who threaten. This is not an infringement on free speech. This is about people who in the real world, if they did these kind of things, could end up in jail. Now, what occurs in the real world and the legislation that we all have to follow in the real world, the reason we don't go and rob 7-Elevens, the reason we don't go and clobber someone in the middle of the street, A, because we're good people primarily, and B, because we know there are consequences to those actions. The legislative space in the online world didn't exist until now. This is an incredible moment for Australia. This is a world first. I did a great chat with Piers Morgan on Good Morning Britain prior to him being eradicated from that, and that's a whole other topic, isn't it, when it comes to the reasons behind that. And he was contacted by a fair few ministers over there who were so impressed by what our government is doing and the push here that they want to try and emulate that overseas as well, which is just phenomenal. So this is a really proud moment for Australia, not just for adults, not just for politicians, not for reality stars, not for people with a profile, for everyday Australians and their children, because children online now, we don't have a choice about being online. Kids are learning online with COVID. We do our banking online. Everyone in some way, shape or form relies upon the online world to survive day to day. And now that space is a whole hell of a lot safer, and that is a wonderful thing.
Yeah, I think that's an important point to make because, my response to all of this, and I get some pretty filthy messages, threatening messages pretty frequently on social media, but I don't read it. I don't partake. I'm not on Twitter. I do get upset when people I love read the rubbish on there. But of course, I'm a robust 50-year-old. I'm not a young kid and I'm not living my life online like many of them do. A lot of this stuff is anonymous. It's trolls. Give me a sense how these laws will crack down on anonymity.
Absolutely. And I don't know how you're 50. You don't look a day over 20, my dear. You look incredible. But I digress. The point of these laws, and one of the things that I've been really passionate about over the past couple of years particularly, has been the fact that these cowards and these vile bullies have been able to be anonymous And under that guise, they've been able to do some of the most horrific things you can imagine and say and send some of the most horrific things. What this new legislation does, it forces big social media companies to comply. It can fine them $500,000, so up to $500,000 if they don't. So you mentioned at the top of the show they have to remove harmful content. That's now within 24 hours. It used to be a lot longer. What they also now have to do, if people cross that line and the threshold that this country has decided goes into that criminal area, they now have to identify these people. So the whole basis of anonymity, which has just allowed them to thrive and to do these vile things, has now gone. And as we spoke about when we spoke privately about this on many occasions, this should not clog up court systems. We don't expect to see millions of Australians in jail. The point of this whole thing, really, the biggest part of this is it creates real life deterrence. It creates punishments. It creates consequences for actions. And if people go online now thinking, wait a minute, I was anonymous yesterday, but tomorrow my mum could find out what I write, my boss could find out what I write, I could be on the front page of the paper identified as sending, a woman who's doing her job a threat to rape her 2-year-old daughter. I'm actually not going to do what I was going to do. It takes away so much of their power. And the legislation just existing alone, I think, will make the world a much better place.
I tell you, I don't think I'm the only one watching tonight who's watching you thinking, I hope you follow your beautiful dad into Parliament one day, Erin Molan. And my viewers would not let me get away with wanting to wish him all the very best as he's got an ongoing fight there, but we hope he's on top of it. Thank you. Congratulations. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much. And just on Dad, I tell you what he has done as well in regards to this privately and behind the scenes has been incredible. My mum as well. They're just amazing people. And Dad is actually, we feel so blessed. He has a tough week with chemo, then he has a couple of good weeks and then it starts again. But I tell you what, he is the strongest person I know. There have been people in many areas of life trying to kill him for years. Credlin, they'll need to do better than this cancer to get him. I tell you what, he's a superstar. He's got this.
I agree with you on that. Yeah, I agree with you on that. Thank you, Erin.